Big Z Reviews. Hi, my name's Brandon Zarzyczny, but you can call me Big Z. And today I'm talking about Eragon and really the whole inheritance cycle by Christopher Paolini. And this is and the series that's kind of close to my heart. But I read it as it came out, and it's so cool that it was like I was a little bit younger than Christopher Paolini, but it was so cool to read a coming of age fantasy novel written by an author that is currently coming of age. And but the thing is, I have like a kind of a crappy habit of at times not reading the last book of a series. And like when especially I feel like I always have a thing where like part of me like thinks that if I don't read the last book, it never actually ended. Like the characters are still having their adventures in my head. But then also a lot of times I have this plans. I want to reread the entire series before reading the newest one, especially if it's been a couple years, since I read them. Then a lot of times then at a certain time it passes and like, well, now I really need to read all the other books that I don't remember what happened. And like this is the one I still have never read this book. I've reread the first three books, and I'm gonna read the next one now after I do this review. But I think it was interesting because he came out with a new book, a fifth book in the series, Murtaugh, and then they also came out with the illustrated version of the first one. And this is really similar to like the Harry Potter versions of it. It's really cool. They have art, but also it's like you're almost reading like a giant tome, and it's cool. But at the same time, like I almost wish that like the actual like the way they do the spacing of it, it's kind of like there's like two columns on each page, and it makes it that you kind of your eyes have to. It's not like you go back and forth more than you need to, and it's a beast of a book to handle. But it's not a way I love to read, but still it's a cool way to experience the books. I wouldn't recommend it probably for the first time around, but I guess if you're reading it to like someone young, it might be cool. But and it's tough to know. Like I had times with books like when I read them when I realized that I've outgrown this author. That's disappointing. I've had multiple times when that's happened. I read a book and I'm like, oh, this isn't good. I think I just don't care anymore. It's like as multiple times it's happened as I grow older. But then sometimes other times when I've reread books, I found that this is amazing. I love this. But as you grow older and change, your opinion on the books you read may change too. And honestly, rereading some books have been some of my favorite reading experiences of my life. Like rereading Robin Hobb's entire series like multiple times. That's probably one of my favorite reading experiences I've ever had. I've also really enjoy rereading like Patrick Rothfuss's books and the Lives of Locke Lamora, and like sometimes some books that you reread that like are so good when you read them again. And I was worried that like with Eragon, I was like, it was written by a teenager that was homeschooled, whose parents worked in publishing. When I read it now, am I gonna hate it? And the first book is definitely the weakest, and is the most like amateurish and young adultish, and pretty much a direct ripoff of Star Wars. But in the end, I think that what I love about Christopher Paolini's writing is that he's not afraid to just let the characters live in the world. And that's the one thing when you read fantasy, these authors, they develop this brand new world that's so interesting, and then so many times they don't let the characters just live in that world and let the reader live in that world. Like they get so worried about all the different plot points they have to do, and like going all over the place and have all these things happen, and you don't get time to just experience the world. That's honestly one of the best things that J.K. Rowling did. By having it set at a school, you get time just living in that world. you know? And I feel like that Eragon and the other books from Christopher Paolini, it really kind of lets you live in the world. Like the first book, it's almost like a bit like a travel log, where like he's traveling with Brahm, like in each like time they go into a different city and they're going on a mission to try to find the evil little bug creatures and their Durza and everything, and that like there's they like it's really great. And I think the first season could make for a good TV show because I don't want to talk about that movie. That movie we got, oh boy, uh, that's like some people have like Dragon Ball Evolution and that Avatar: The Last Airbender movie as like their like the daggers in their heart, but then I have Eragon, But like it'd be interesting to see if they could do a TV show out of it. But I think that like the first book is just a complete ripoff of the first Star Wars, and the second book is a bit of a ripoff of the second movie of Star Wars. Thankfully, the third book goes away from it, although there are bits and pieces of it that remind me of it. But it's of course the whole Star Wars story is the hero's journey, but it is so much like it at times. When sometimes I was reading like, oh boy, this is definitely Star Wars. But at the same time, like I don't mind because the characters are interesting, and I just love like Aragon being in this world, and it's so interesting too. The second book, I definitely feel like like I said, this is a coming of age story written by someone that's coming of age, because like the second book, like so much of it is spent with Eragon, like with living with the elves and training. It's like kind of like with Luke training with Yoda, on the swamp world, Dagobah, and that like like this might be the most unique and interesting depiction of elves like since Tolkien, because like they feel like so many times it's just like the elves aren't main characters, or like they're just like a version of the elves from Tolkien. But this one, these elves are very unique, and they give them a unique backstory for like how like they used to have like an ancient they used to fight with the dragons for hundreds of years, and they almost like caused each race to go extinct. But then they like one elf named Eragon like found the dragon egg and bonded with the dragon and convinced everyone to form a magical bond with the dragons, and that made the dragons more civilized, and it made the elves immortal. Like that, like the combination of the powers, and that like it created the dragon riders. But then like later, like a human dragon rider, which is like the Emperor Palpatine, he Galbatorix, like he became evil and destroyed all the dragon riders, and then like he had there's a character that is like Darth Vader, but essentially it's that if Obi-Wan murdered Darth Vader in the Obi-Wan series on Disney, that's what would happen in this world. And essentially, his son, and I don't know if I'm going to go spoilers, but there's other stuff too. But the son Murtaugh, he is like the Darth Vader character after being a friend. Like the combination of like of other stuff too. It's not a direct correlation to Star Wars, but then there's also like the elvish princess Arya, which is like a love interest like Luke and Leia. Although this one, in this case, it's just that there's like 100 years separating them, and not a brother and sister thing for why they can't bang. But like they're like the second one is such a like they go into philosophy, and they like I feel like the character kind of becomes a vegan because he so focusing on meditating on and witnessing all the world with his powers that like he can't eat flesh after he's lived with them. But then the third book he kind of goes back like, okay, maybe I'm not. And in the second book he definitely is an atheist. I think the author and Eragon. And in the third book, he kind of flirting with religion again, and he's also like, okay, well maybe I can eat meat if like where I'm eating at a big dinner and they don't that's all they have. Like and like it's like he's growing as a person and as an author and as a character. Like they're like you change, like your opinions change, and something maybe really idolized, like that like you think that you should be vegan and that it's all religion is bullshit. And I'm like, maybe religion is kind of bullshit, but maybe I'm slightly open to it. And yeah, maybe I'm just more vegetarian, and sometimes on special occasions I'll eat meat. And it's like it's interesting. But I love the second book, like, and so much of the story. Like I cared so much about Aragon and just like living with these people and having interesting adventures and hanging out with them. That like in each book, like there's the especially book 1 to book 2 is like, okay, time for the big battle. We have to end the fantasy book with a climactic battle. But like in this book, the battle is that, and a little bit of like what happens after. But that's all the battle is, and the rest of the book is all of that. And the same thing in the second book. Like there's a big battle at the end, and it's like, and in the third book they have a surprise battle kind of in the middle of the book, like right, but like I'm like excited. Oh, they're preparing for this marriage. Oh, I'm really enjoying this. Like he's just been adventuring with Arya, and he had a thing like where he had to save a friend that was captured by the evil characters, a little bit like Jabba the Hutt sort of thing, the start of the third movie of Star Wars, but like, and they interrupt the wedding with like a big battle. I'm like, oh, a big battle. Okay, you better get back to the wedding. It's like it's weird, but like I enjoy the characters so much, and it's like the writing is easy. It's not too artistic. It's not too verbose, but it's good enough that it has a good flow, and it's not like childlike. It's not too young adultish. Like it's really interesting concepts, and really like you're with him as he's thinking about this world and his place in it, like more than a lot of other really hard fantasy books, because like he's even like, and it gets violent. Like it's as at times as violent as a lot of grimdark novels. Like the battles are gory and brutal, and even the magic in this is really interesting. But like how like there are like essentially an army has to have a bunch of sorcerers with them, and they're protecting the minds of their whole group, and that if like the other sorcerers on the other side have to battle to enter the mind of the sorcerer on the other side, and if they can, they kill the sorcerer, and then they kill with like an entire battalion of soldiers. Like it's like with like they cut off the blood to their brains, and like in this instant death. The magic is so interesting, and the dragons. Like I love like this story. A lot of it, especially at the beginning, is a boy and his monster, along with the farmer boy that's fated to become the hero of the world. But like there's a combination of that. But like I really like the dragons are great. I really love Saphira, and the bond that they have is like really interesting. Like it's like she's, especially the funny in the third book, you get like a couple chapters like with her from her viewpoint, and it's like the first book is all just the viewpoint of Eragon. Then you start adding his cousin and other characters, but like when you get the viewpoint of Saphira, like she thinks different, and I love how Paolini writes her and writes all of this stuff, and it's so interesting. What the different developments. Of course, like they're different. They always have to be a plot twist. I love like in the third one, there's plot twists that change previous plot twists. And it's like, okay, I like it. I'll allow it. And it's so fun, and I'm so curious. Like I'm gonna actually read the ending of the series now. After I do this review, I'm gonna start the next book. And then but then now there is a new book to read after that, and I'm so interested to see where they go with it, because like Gabotorix seems like such an unbeatable force. It's so curious to see how they'll do the big battles and what other all will happen. Of course, I just want to see how the characters will develop too. And I would recommend it. You know, like the first book especially, I think for all ages, is a little bit of violence, but like it's not too bad. But like I know some of the later books I think might be more difficult to read. But then it's like Harry Potter, like as the later books get bigger and they get more adult. But like I just would recommend it if you never got around to decide it was worth it. I would recommend the Inheritance Cycle. Like rereading it again, I really enjoyed it. It's definitely Star Wars, but in a fantasy world, but it's great. I really love it. So thanks for watching. If you want to see more of me, you can subscribe down below. Thanks.